So I worked with a client not too long ago, and she was coming off of a pretty strict diet that had her feeling so confused about how in the world am I going to transition to real food. She said to me, I don't know what to eat. And I said to her, okay, well, why don't we start with what would you like to eat? And she was even confused about that. But she did tell me, Adam, she was able to say, here's what I don't want to eat. So here
That's a
we
great
go,
starting
back
point.
to the beginning,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't want to eat plain Greek yogurt with fresh berries. No problem. She goes, but I love a chobani. I said, that's where we're starting. And so there we go. Like we found a path forward. So I'm telling you, there is no magic plan. And any coach worth their weight in gold is going to ask you what you like to eat first. Just my little PSA. Hey there, Adam. Hey there, everybody at home or at work or, God forbid, in your car watching. Today, we are going to talk about something that I think probably has confused most every human being, at least in, well, we'll just say the United States, but probably the entire world for maybe the last century or more, since dieting was a thing. All right. What should we be eating? I don't know what to eat. What should I be eating? These are kind of questions that we hear a lot, right, Adam?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So, but it makes sense because it's confusing. So I want you, Adam, we're going to kind of talk through some of these like dieting fads over the years. There were some really interesting ones that I saw in my research, but amongst more common ones, and feel free to toss out some ideas, it was really interesting. Like the first one back when dieting became a thing was like eat fruits and veggies and milk and count calories. Yeah. Like turn of the century. That was the recommendation. Then when they started processing food, it was like, how about grape nuts? It's a great substitute for fruits and veggies because they started to fortify food, right? And they were looking for easier ways to feed people. So those are some of the ones that came up like from way back when, but some of the more common ones and definitely makes things confusing. Like grapefruit diet, banana and milk diet. Oh, one that I saw along the way, and I think it came up in the 1960s, was the drinking man's diet. Guess what that
Hmm.
one was?
Uh,
Meat and booze.
nice.
Have two martinis at lunch and a big steak. You'll be great. Be great. Right? Like it's so confusing. And then of course we come on through. There's the Atkins diet, also came around in the 1960s, reemerged in the 1990s. What are some that come across your mind, Adam?
The big one for me is, I was born in 1983, and just remember the 90s with the low fat or no fat. So you had all the Snackwells cookies. So
Yes.
everything was no fat, but everything had a ton of sugar.
Yeah.
But no one was paying attention to sugar. So it was like, oh, it's zero fat. Then they came out with the potato chips that were made with olein.
Oh, right.
Which basically is like, it might as well just be like paint thinner. Sure, it doesn't have calories, but your body just can't process it. So you're just like eating chips and then you're just like on the bathroom for 2 hours afterward. Um, so the fat-free era is really what I remember the most growing up. I think, I don't know, Snackwell's cookies came onto the scene strongly.
I definitely ate a lot of those vanilla cookies, right? Like they wanted to be Oreos, but they were vanilla with the
Yes. And
cream in the
then
middle.
my favorite were the Devil's Food ones with the
Oh, yes.
little cream
The little
inside.
round guys.
And they had like the
Yes.
chocolate coating. They were like mini little hockey pucks or whatever. They were delicious.
Yeah,
It's
they
like, oh,
almost
these
had a
are
crunch.
right, and these are amazing. They're fat free, and that's what people
Right.
thought was the enemy. But fat, as we know, is not the enemy. Um,
No,
yeah,
for sure. And I think then, we kind of shifted in. There were some years of like eating these good things, like granola was a thing back in the 70s, I think. It like became a thing. Which listen, what's wrong with granola? I mean, yeah, then they were like, oh, too much sugar, too much oil. And then, blueberries, kale, smoothies, cleansing, right? And then we went into like gluten-free, quinoa, avocado. All these things are really great, but it's no wonder we're all so confused. What should we be eating? What should we not be eating? What if I don't like that stuff? What if I have weight to lose? What if I just want to feel good, right? Like it's so confusing. So we're going to talk about how to figure that piece out, right? And let me just say, at least in my opinion, and from years of doing this and from study and all of that, it's highly personal. While there are general consensus to a lot of things, sure, whole foods are going to improve your health and your likelihood of weight loss and weight maintenance over processed foods. There is no one rule for anybody. There is no silver bullet. So if you're out there looking for it, you're going to have to work to find the one for you. Let's just put that out there. But we have a really great path for figuring that out. And it's not as hard as you think. It's not as hard as everybody wants to make it. All right. So Adam, real quick, before we jump into that, what is the number one predictor of sustainable weight loss and health?
The number one predictor I would say is the ability to stick with it, the ability to, be consistent. And ultimately that means the plan you're following has to match the realities of your life. It has to take into account your preferences, your likes and dislikes, your non-negotiables. Basically, it has to be something that you can see yourself sticking with.
Notice you didn't mention a single particular food. You didn't say, oh, and by the way, eat kale every day, 3 times a day. Or make sure you're constantly popping blueberries and almonds in your mouth. Like, food didn't even really get mentioned, right? So you're talking a behavior, right? And so that's really the key. The behavior is consistently choosing to eat the things you're eating, right? Over the course of time, sticking with it. All right, so we've demystified that. It's really not about any one particular food. There is no demon food out there. There's no life-saving food out there. All right. So you mentioned 2 things. Has to match the realities of your life, and you need to be eating food you like, right? Like, sounds pretty simple. It's really not that complicated, but we want to complicate the heck out of things. So let's simplify it for them. Let's give them some ways to move into this phase of figuring out what I should be eating. Now, in my mind, the first question is not what should I eat? It's what am I willing to eat? And that can be a pretty loaded question. So it might be easier to ask the opposite of what am I not willing to eat, right? And anytime I talk with a client, I'm like, all right, tell me the things you hate, right? Like we're going to talk about the foods you're going to want to start eating or making sure you're eating as you move forward in your weight loss plan. But it's probably important for you to tell me the things you absolutely hate. And I'll give you an example. I had a client recently that I talked to about this, and she was like, shrimp and broccoli. I was like, well, that just blows up our breakfast plan. I was going to mention omelets with shrimp and broccoli for breakfast every day. I don't know what you're going to eat if you can't eat shrimp and broccoli. We had a good laugh about it. But the truth is, like, okay, you don't like shrimp and broccoli. That's not going to make or break this plan. Right? So I think a good place to start is to say, okay, what things am I not willing to eat? So Adam, do you have any things you're like, nope, definitely will never eat?
Yeah, so there's a few things. Number one, I love tuna fish. It's just something I grew up on. It's great. It's a lot of protein. Obviously, like anything, there's always tuna fish is great for you, but be careful of the mercury. But anyway, there's like low-fat mayo. And I like mayo with my tuna fish. I don't like mustard. I don't like, I just good old fashioned mayo, some chopped up celery. It's amazing. But there was low fat mayo. And when low fat mayo came out, I of course tried it and I found myself not eating tuna anymore because I couldn't stomach low fat mayo. So it was like, I wasn't eating tuna. So it's like, you know what? There's a few things I'm unwilling to compromise on. I'm unwilling to compromise on mayo. Like if I'm going to have mayo, I'm going to do the real thing, enjoy it. And that's it. So I'm unwilling to eat low-fat mayo. That's number one. Like ketchup. Like there's all sorts of like I like the old-fashioned Heinz ketchup, regular Heinz. Like it's just worth it to me. And if I use a little ketchup with chicken, and then I wasn't eating, like there's certain things that I need that in order to eat the other thing, and it's worth it. So those are the two things that come to mind.
Okay. I mean, that gives you a whole vast world of accessible foods, right? From which to build a really sustainable and might I even say enjoyable way of eating,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Like, all
I'll
right,
share. I'll share one more thing. One of my favorite meals for like lunch is eggs, avocado in a tortilla. And recently, like one of my friends was like, "You should try this tortilla. You should try this one." And they're disgusting. And it's like, I'm not going to enjoy my lunch anymore. And I look forward to my lunch. It's healthy. Yes, it's not absolutely perfection in terms of macros, but you know what? I can stick with it easily for the rest of my life. And I talk about that all the time. Like, I can eat the way I'm eating for the rest of my life easily. Right. And yes, I enjoy my favorite foods. Doesn't mean I enjoy my, like, doesn't mean I'm eating cookies or ice cream or pizza or hamburgers every single day, all day long, but there's a balance. And I think that's the key. Is picking and choosing what is really and truly worth it, where you're willing to compromise, where you're unwilling to compromise, and take it from there.
yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. Like, I'm not saying, okay, like, yeah, pizza's on your list of things you love. Eat pizza every day. That's not what I'm saying. And so here's the second part of this, right? Like, identify the things you're not willing to eat. Great. That's probably a pretty short list. So that gives you access to a whole bunch of foods in the realm of whole food to processed food. And you're right. Health isn't going to come when we're eating pizza and cookies every day, all day long. So then the second piece is go, okay, like what food makes me feel good when I eat it? Mostly physically, but also we know there's a mental component to this. And then what foods make me feel not so good when I eat them, right? And there's a physical and mental component to that. And then start building your list that way. Like, okay, pizza to a point, I feel okay. If I eat it too many days in a row, I'm not only feeling physically low, but probably mentally low. So I'm going to put that on the not so good side. And then I've got a whole list of other things for you, Adam: tuna, chicken, wraps. I know you like almonds, a bunch of different things, right? And that's going to be on the feel good side. And we want to learn to eat the foods on the feel good side, right? Like, eat more of what feels good and just moderate or eat less of the things that don't feel so good, right? So that's kind of what you're talking about there. Like, we can't be eating pizza and cookies all day long, but they got to be a part of it or you can't stick with it. You got to have the real fat mayo or you can't stick with the tuna fish.
Exactly. Listen, I think we're all balancing living for today versus living for tomorrow. If we're only living for today, then I think your life is filled with pleasure. And while pleasure is certainly enjoyable, it's very fleeting, right? And if you're only living for tomorrow, then it's filled with tons of sacrifices. You feel like you're going to burn out. And so there has to be that balance. So that's number one. And number two is, I always try to find foods and meals and snacks that make me feel good before, during, and after eating them, right? Before, during, and after. And I think that's a powerful test in a way because, like, yes, ideally, and we're working towards, there shouldn't be any judgment about our food, but sometimes there's trepidation. Should I eat this? Should I not eat this? And then especially afterwards, if we eat something that we weren't intending on eating, we don't necessarily feel great. So to me, it's like, am I going to feel good before, during, and after? And if it's yes for all three, then it's like, yes, of course. So that's another way, another litmus test I like as well.
I love that. I love that because that gets even more specific, right? So we've really taken it from like, I don't know what I should be eating to I'm really clear on what I'm not willing to eat, to look at all the food that's available to me, to let me think about how this food is going to make me before, during, and after, right? So hopefully this is demystifying like the fact that there's actually no perfect food out there, right? Here's Adam eating whole fat mayo, right? Like, but he's okay. He's able to stick with taking care of his body and feeling good because he has whole fat mayo every once in a while. There's nothing wrong with it. And he likes his tortillas. Stop trying to swap them out. The
I
one
should
he's
also
got
add.
works.
I should also add. I mean, every single day I'm having Toll House chocolate chips. I'm not having I'm not having 90% dark chocolate. I'm not having special chocolate. It's Toll House, chocolate chips that you get in any grocery store. With I melt it and have some almonds with it, right? So like, yes, that is not. It's not absolutely perfect either. But again, to me, the best plan in the world is one you can easily stick with. That enables
Yes.
you to eat in a way you feel good about. And to me, it's like you have to take the pressure off of trying to be so perfect that you wind up doing nothing, and instead say, what's a plan that I can easily stick with, that I feel good about, that I can say, you know what, I got this for the rest of my life. Like that's what we're after.
Yeah. And I think this leads into the second part of the equation, which is whatever plan you're on has to match the realities of your life, right? Like Toll House chocolate chips are the realities of your life. You can go to the grocery store and get them, and you don't have to overthink it, right? It's probably not realistic to assume you're going to spend any time making your own chocolate chips out of your own cacao beans, right? But you laugh.
No, I know.
That thought has crossed my mind.
Right. I mean, because you
I
get
love
crazy.
chocolate.
You can get crazy. It's like you want to optimize your health, but I also want to optimize for happiness and being realistic and practicality and,
Right.
not becoming insane.
Yeah, definitely.
Convenience.
And listen, yeah, convenience. Go ahead.
No, I mean, that's certainly part of it.
It is. And I mean, the thing is we are all, listen, you always say life's never not going to be busy, and it's definitely just getting busier, right? We have so many people we work with that work around the clock, they travel all the time, or just in general, like hate to cook, right? Maybe they don't have access to a kitchen, they don't have cooking skills, or they don't have the time. These are realities of life. And this is the stuff we're talking about. Like, if it is not realistic to cook yourself 3 square meals a day for whatever reason, then don't assume you're not going to be able to achieve your weight loss or health and fitness goals. That's just not the case. We're very fortunate now to have access to wonderfully prepared foods for us, right?
Yeah.
And I just think like we overlook the ability to go and get what we need, even if we can't prepare it at home. I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, if you're out and about and you catch yourself hungry, don't just assume it's the drive-through or nothing else. Look for a grocery store. It's where the food is.
Right.
It's where the food is. And then make up a little meal of easy, snacks that make you feel good, right? On that list. So we might find a bag of nuts and some hummus and cut up veggies, or we might go to the salad bar or the hot bar and get a cup of soup, right? Like there are so many ways to achieve it, but don't run yourself into the ground assuming the only way to achieve good health, weight loss, and sustainable, health and fitness for life is by doing the Herculean thing and spending hours in your kitchen. Because it's not. It's just not.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I think too often we try to achieve or aim for perfect health, and because we on some level know that's not possible, we don't aim for anything, and we try not at all, or we don't try at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, there is a part of me that's like, well, what about the people who say, just tell me what to eat? Like I think we need to just I don't know. There's so much confusion. Do I eat this? Do I not eat that? And I think hopefully what we've conveyed and articulated in this video is ultimately the best plan is one that you feel like you can stick with, right? Some people want to, eat in a, very high protein way. Some people want to avoid animal protein. Like there's all sorts of preferences people have. And I personally think the best thing you can do for your health is, try to have, a relatively low body fat, right? Like I think that's, reduce your weight as much as possible, but don't obsess over well, should I eat 90% cacao beans or only eat organic? Like that's where you can get crazy with yourself. I think focus on a plan that you can stick with, and then, I think everything else good will happen.
Yeah, definitely. And okay, I just want to address this because I do know that it's a concern of some of our clients. I know that you brought it up. We do have people who come and they say, just tell me what to eat. And my response is always, okay, well, tell me what you're eating currently, right? So I always start with, what are you already doing? Can we improve it? What are you willing to do to even improve it 1%? Or if you're truly confused, well, let's talk about components of a healthy plate, right? And so here we go down the macros road, but I'm not going to split macro hairs with you. We need proteins, we need carbohydrates, we need fats, we need plants. We need it all, right? So I worked with a client not too long ago, and she was coming off of a pretty strict diet that had her feeling so confused about how in the world am I going to transition to real food. She said to me, I don't know what to eat. And I said to her, okay, well, why don't we start with what would you like to eat? And she was even confused about that. But she did tell me, Adam, she was able to say, here's what I don't want to eat. So here we go, back to the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't want to eat plain Greek yogurt with fresh berries. No problem. She goes, but I love a chobani. I said, that's where we're starting.
Right.
And so there we go. Like, we found a path forward. So I'm telling you, there is no magic plan. And any coach worth their weight in gold is going to ask you what you like to eat first. Just my little PSA.
I could not agree more. I mean, if it's just a cookie cutter plan that doesn't take you into account at all, then, I mean, sure, like it could be effective, but it's not sustainable. And if it's not sustainable, then it's not effective, because you want to do this something, once and for all, not just something that works, quote unquote, for 30 days and then you're back to square one.
Definitely. All right, guys. Well, that's all we have for today. Hopefully we've demystified what you should be eating. And now you know there is no one answer, but you got to do a little homework, maybe hire a coach. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. All right. And we'll see you soon. Leave some comments below. Feel free to email Adam. He's always available, and we'll see you next time.